Hey guys, Brendan here. Today I want to show and share with you this max patch that I made when I was in college studying electronic music. It's nothing crazy, nothing too complex, honestly probably pretty sloppy by the standards of anybody who knows what they're doing in Max, but it's been pretty special to me over the years. I've used it to put on as background atmosphere, to fall asleep to meditate to, those kinds of things. And it actually ended up being the basis for my EP Sleep Cycles, which I released under my own name about 5 years ago. If you're interested in poking around in the patch or just having it for yourself, it's going to go up on Patreon when this video gets published. So without further ado, let's get into it. We'll start off at the top and work our way down. At the very top is this phaser right here, which is just acting as our master clock. It puts out a ramped saw wave from 0 to 1, and then that ramped saw wave is received by these rate objects, which send out time-scaled versions of that ramped saw. So this one is sending out a ramp at 7 times slower, 4 times slower, 3 times slower, and so on, slower than our master clock here. So we have all these asynchronous clocks going at once that control various parts of the patch. These 3 right here are triggering both these random note selectors and these envelope generators here. Every time one of these objects sends out a bang, it is sent directly to these toggle objects, and then these delayed bangs also go to those toggle objects which turn it off. So one of these bangs will turn it on, and then this delayed bang that comes 1000 milliseconds later will turn it off. These ADSRs that are controlled by those toggle objects are sending out envelopes that ramp from 0 to 1, and those are sent into these signal multipliers, which are pretty much just acting like VCAs if you're from the modular synth world. And those VCAs are receiving these cycle tilde objects, which are basically just sine wave oscillators. Those sine wave oscillators receive pitch data from these note banks right here, so let's talk about those. Every time these clocks trigger an envelope, they also select a random value from 0 to 3, and then that selection is sent over here to these selection objects, which select from these note banks. And these are just pitches that I chose that I thought sounded good together. Those are then sent to these addition boxes, which receive either 0 or 12 as an argument. So the pitch from the banks gets sent into these objects, and then they are either transposed up an octave or just go through as they are. That 0 or 12 is selected by this toggle, which turns on and off according to this clock here. And these addition objects receive 0 or 12 as arguments from this toggle, which is controlled by this clock. This one is going 35 times slower than the master. This one is going 40 times slower than the master. So they're just kind of asynchronously selecting octaves for these pitches to jump up and down. There are 2 banks of oscillators here. There's the left ones and the right ones. The ones on the left are receiving the pitches exactly as they are, or up an octave from the pitch bank, but the ones on the right are getting transposed up an additional 7 semitones or a perfect fifth. And then those pitches that come out of those boxes, all 6 of them are going to these M to F objects right here, and those just convert MIDI data into frequency data, and then those are sent into these cycle tilde objects, which are again the sine wave oscillators. There's also these oscillators up here, which are sending very slow fluctuations in pitch, basically as LFOs, controlling 4 out of 6 of those oscillators. So we get some very slight pitch movement as well from that. These are just acting as volume sliders here, and they receive their initial values from these banks of settings here that are triggered by a load bang. So when the patch loads, this bang triggers these messages, which sends the values to these volume sliders that they then snap to. The outputs of these faders are going directly into the reverb algorithm. These 3 go directly in. These 3 go through these send objects, which then come out of these receive objects, which go into the reverb algorithm. And then down here is some really hacky panning going on, basically just because I didn't want to set up a pan pot. I just kind of did it manually. Again, sloppy patching. So the output of this one goes directly into the left and right, as you can see. The output of this one right here goes directly into the left, but then before going into the right, it is multiplied by 0.75, so it's attenuated just a little bit. And then this one is the same deal, but it's just flipped, so the left signal is attenuated and the right signal gets full volume. All of the signals going into these send objects are then sent out of these receive objects, which go into the digital to analog converter and the audio recorder. And that's pretty much it. A simple patch that does what it does and sounds quite nice. So enjoy.